Welcome to Whaler Talk, hosted by the Hartford Whalers Booster Club. I'm Jerry Irwin flying solo tonight. I have Sean Irwin behind the controls and Peter Hindles on the West Coast enjoying, oh no, he's not enjoying, the Giants beat San Francisco this weekend. Tonight we have an unbelievable show. We have two gentlemen here who created our famous logo, the Hartford Whalers logo. Tonight I have Peter Good and Jack Lardis here from Whaler Fantasyland, I like to call it, because when I walk around my job I see these logos everywhere. They live like it just came out yesterday. Sean and I were doing a little research tonight, and it showed that the Whalers logo is still in the top 10. We've been gone for 15 years, the Whalers, and they're still right up there. Gentlemen, I thank you so much for being here, and what can you tell us about your journey?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us, Jerry. This is a pleasure. This is a kind of an exciting thing. You mentioned the popularity of the logo. I don't think there's anything like it. The fact that the logo does not represent a team at the moment, but yet it's still one of the iconic marketing tools for the NHL. Curiously, about 2 years ago, I got a call from a radio station in North Carolina. They asked if I would be on. They researched and found out I designed it. And the reason they wanted me on, they said something strange is happening. All the North Carolina Hurricane fans are coming in with the old Hartford Whaler logo on it. So that's when I said, geez, something's happening here. Malcolm Gladwell, the great cultural social writer, would have a ball with this, because it's hard to figure it out. There's no track record for something like this.
It's just amazing. You see it on video games. You see it with the NHL when they market the vintage logos, and right up with the Winnipeg Jets, who are now back in the NHL. Yeah. We now have our team, and we're hoping that hopefully the NHL will either expand, or a team needs to move to Hartford because of financial reasons. Like Mr. Baldwin has said, we want to be the solution to the NHL's problem. So, but Jack, where did you come into this?
Well, I was the advertising agency for the Hartford Whalers when it was the New England Whalers, and then Bill Barnes, the marketing director, said, we're going into the NHL and we need a new logo. And so I said, well, I have just the person for you. Peter Good, who I had worked with for many years, and is a premier corporate image designer, and he's designed some fabulous national and international logos. And so I called Peter, and he said, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's, and we got together, and then I gave Peter a briefing, and then from there, then I'm going to let Peter tell you what the progression is, because he's got his designs as they developed to the final logo.
Oh, that's great. Now make sure we get these zoomed in when Peter goes over them, because these are quite exciting to have the actual sketches here of what a logo has been.
Well, first of all, I think what happened then was such an unusual situation, and I think it would be very unrealistic to think that could happen again, that the idea that a National Hockey League team or any professional team would go to one designer from this little town in Chester, Connecticut, and put their trust to design an identity for this extraordinary team coming into the NHL. But so I welcome the assignment, obviously. Who wouldn't want to design something like that?
Oh, sure.
So I immediately started sketching. I think the schedule was pretty tight, because they were coming in. There were press conferences scheduled and so forth. And so I went to work on it immediately. And this top sketch, if you can see that, was some very, very preliminary concept ideas thrown down. And I do piles of these in thinking about the relationships between hockey, the Whalers, Hartford, the anatomy of whales and so forth. And most of those are rejected. But sometimes you do something that you know might not be the right solution, but it might lead to another idea.
Okay.
And the first presentation I made to Howard and Bill Barnes and Jack Kelly were these, using parts of whales, using the H in whales in various forms. I did try some using the harpoon and so forth. And when I presented these, they were on larger boards than this. Howard selected this one, which is the W and an H in harpoons. And I said, well, Howard, why do you like that? He said, I like it because it has the H in it. And I said, well, that's fine, but that was not really a requirement. I just tried that one. Now that I know that, now that you've told me that's something that's a positive, give me another week and let me see what I could do that would be better than this, because this had an inherent problem. Like the old New England Whalers logo did, you're using a symbol for something that kills whales.
Correct.
And your mascot is a whale. So therefore, you're using a symbol that kills your mascot. And there's something that just doesn't sit right about that.
Fortunately, you saw back then, because now it's more in the forefront than ever before when you get into the animal protection.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. So I said, well, what else can I do? And this was when I still started fooling around with the H and the W and so forth. And then I had this insight of merging the whale's tail, which is shown here and here, with the letter form W. And these are some preliminary, because when you look at the finished logo now, it seems natural the way that whale fits with the W, but when that did not exist, how does it fit and how do you invent it? How do you make it work? So these are some trial and errors. Some of them are awkward, some of them just don't flow. And this is the sketch where I really felt that I was onto something. And it has the three symmetrical elements. And I was given an opportunity. You have a symmetrical letter form W, symmetrical letter form H, and the whale's tail is a symmetrical form. So it offers symmetry given to you. This is very, very rare.
It's amazing.
And so, and I saw all kinds of potential in the simplicity of it, how it could be reproduced very small on a tie clip, on bags, on logos for ads, and all kinds of things. There was no reproduction problems inherent in that design. And the rest was just crafting it, getting it right, the proportions and the flows. And what gives it its optical impact, I believe, is the negative space that creates the H. Because, in fact, 15 years after I did this, someone would come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw the H." You know? Well, the H was always there, but it's called in the design vernacular, it's called figure-ground relationships. Okay. And it's that ambiguity that makes it optically interesting. It gives it energy. In other words, the figure is the whale's tail on the W. The H is the negative space, which is the ground. But if you focus on the H, all of a sudden that comes forward. And it's that optical dynamism that really makes it memorable and makes it a strong identity.
It's hypnotic.
Yeah.
It really is. You look at it and you're like, I want it, I want to see more. It's amazing.
And then subsequent to that, we made suggestions for the uniforms, the away jerseys and the home jerseys. Originally, I had a orange accent, but we never went with that. And then subsequent to that, Bill said, why don't you consider using the logo on some marketing items? So we did, we actually produced with our label T-shirts and tote bags and handbags and umbrellas, aprons, a variety of things
for
the shop. But an interesting thing that happened at this because Bill marketed this with radio commercials as a designer's line of the Whalers logo.
Yeah.
Wrong.
It didn't work very well.
It didn't. It didn't. You know, because we had the idea of silk scarves for women, all kinds of different things. We had the logo die cut out of leather on canvas bags for women. Very, very sophisticated. But most sports fans like their logo big and brassy and loud and so forth. So what is interesting, what's ironic today, I think those items would sell better today than they would have back in 1979.
There are the simplest hats that you see out today. The kids wear them. It says Hartford across the top, and that logo's right on the side. Or you just see the logo. I have a hat that has just the logo, and it's amazing. In 2010, was it Mitchell and Ness said that the Hartford Whalers logo and apparel, hats specifically, were in the top 5 on the East Coast. My wife, we just went to Boston on Saturday, and all of a sudden, right there in the middle of a Boston store with the Patriots, Red Sox, Celtics, big championship clubs, there's a whole kiosk of Whaler stuff.
Yeah, there's no team.
I'm telling you, we must be on a mission from God, because you know what? It's going to happen. It has to happen. It is everywhere. What was it like once you released the logo? What did you guys see? I was young. I went to the games. I think I went to the New England Whalers versus the Russians I saw in Hartford. That was my New England Whalers experience that I can remember. And I think I was 7 years old at the time. What was the explosion when you guys made this logo? As an advertiser, back then it's a whole different world today with advertising, but back then with a team now going from the WHA into the National Hockey League.
Well, the logo was an instant success, and the fans just loved it. And then to see it on all the apparel, it was just fantastic. And I mean, as a matter of fact, you're talking about Boston. Last year, my son called me around my birthday, and he was up in Boston on some business. And he said, Dad, what size do you wear? I said, large, why? He said, oh, I've got something for you. And he gave me a Whalers t-shirt, but it was really beautiful because it was very muted. It was like a dusty blue shirt, and then with the logo, and it was not, it wasn't jarring. And
Right. It was the vintage look.
The vintage look.
And it became like a fashion garment.
It's all over again.
It's on sneakers and watches and wastebaskets and
I know. My daughter just got me a wastebasket for my birthday. I was very pleased. I have more memorabilia.
Well, another interesting anecdote. I was a designer for quite a while in my small town, but no one really knew. At that time, nobody really knew what graphic design was. Now, the term is so ubiquitous. Everyone knows a graphic designer or is a graphic designer.
Yeah.
But when the press release came out identifying me as a designer in my little town, people finally realized what I did. So it was really interesting. And then it did get a lot of notoriety. It got a gold award in the Boston Art Directors Club.
That's awesome.
And it was, I think it was voted, wasn't it, Jack, correct me, one of the best new logo in the NHL?
Right.
That year, so it was very gratifying. Very
Absolutely.
gratifying.
I mean, it must have been a fun time. You look at advertising today, and you see the commercials on TV and so on. I remember my dad gave me a bunch of pictures, and he goes, "You got to keep these." I go, "Dad, who are these people?" This was from G. Fox downtown, and it was the New England Whalers at a fashion show. Now, you look at pictures from the 70s, and these guys are wearing the big lapels, the polyester suits, the hair. I mean, you guys were now breaching into that 80s, because that was what, 79, 80?
79.
Yeah, 79. Now you're breaching into the 80s, and you're creating a fantastic new age logo that you're really pulling away from, like you said about the original New England Whalers logo.
It was a departure. I mean, graphically, this comes out of more of a modernist approach to design, as opposed to folksy or illustrative. You know, it's
we
a
were
typographic solution,
right,
really.
and we were talking about that off camera earlier. You know, when you look at the National Hockey League and their logos versus the American Hockey League, where it's a different type of logo, you know, a cartoony look, and maybe it's more of a family oriented than the National Hockey League, which they're trying, but you know, the cost is a little bit more to go to an NHL game. You can see the distinct difference.
Oh, yeah,
The Connecticut Whale has a nice logo, but it's an AHL logo. So,
And this was done also, just as an interesting side, before digital technology.
oh yeah,
So what would be done with a program today, some kind of a program for creating curves and so forth. This was done by cutting templates out of acetate, sanding them to get the right shape,
Really?
and then using an inking pen for creating the precise forms.
Amazing.
And you'll notice in the corners of the H, there are little areas that come into the green, and those are called light traps. Do you see that? It's not
Right
quite
in the corner
square.
here?
Yeah, you see how sharp those
Yep,
are? They
yep.
come into green. That was done to allow the logo to be reproduced from printed material, so that when it gets reproduced 2 or 3 times, those little sharp ends will fill in, but they won't round out.
wow.
So it's to compensate for the technology of reproduction back in 1979.
Wow, that's crazy. That is amazing. Now, the logo. We talked a little bit off camera about it. Where does it stand now? You have the rights to it. Who has the rights to it? Who owns the logo? Where is the logo?
Well, it's one of the most complex legal situations. The NHL has the trademark.
Okay.
We have the rights, the copyrights, and it's under it's being investigated right now.
Okay.
Because as I mentioned, Bill Barnes, bless his soul, he asked me to sign the rights over to them back in the 80s sometime, and I still have the uncashed check and the unsigned legal document because he said, and I remember it very distinctly. I said, you know, Bill, my lawyer says that he doesn't think I should sign it. He says, you know, you're absolutely right. And you know, but then after the Whalers left, who would have thought this phenomenon would happen?
And
You
really,
know,
what you
it's
right?
like a
How many
tipping
people do
point
you
of
see with
some
the
kind.
Whalers logo now?
Yeah,
I mean, it's everywhere.
It's kind of mysterious.
It is.
So that's still an ambiguity.
Oh, sure.
In terms of, you know, about 2 years ago, I got a call from a fire chief in Hartford, wanted to use the logo on a shirt for their particular, what is it called, division or.
Yep.
And he says, do I have your permission? He said, could you write me a letter? And I said, oh, of course. And he also got permission from the NHL.
Oh, nice. So good for him.
But his captain was very, very reluctant to do anything that would have any kind of legal thing. And I think that's kind of been the atmosphere
Yes,
of this.
and you know, you look at, you know, and a lot of our fans and our members have asked, you know, who owns it? Why aren't they jumping on this? Well, you know, Howard has said that he doesn't want to use that for anything right now. It's the Whalers. It's NHL. And I think when we had the NHL here, we've also run into, as we spoke about, fragmentation of our fans. Our fans were in a major league city, and it's very difficult for our fans to now support an AHL club, which I think is ridiculous. You support hockey. Hockey's in Hartford. You're lucky to have hockey. If we get the NHL back, even better. But what has to happen is you have to support what you have. If the NHL is going to come back, let them be the Whalers. I know it has been said that Gary Bettman has said we can use the logo, we can use the name again. You know, now we just have to find someone who's rich enough to bring a team here, or a bunch of investors. But it's probably been a heck of a ride for you guys. Now what are you guys doing now? Jack?
Well, when I left advertising, I had kind of a personal mission, which was a long story, but anyway, I started an organization called Oil Drum Art, and it's a nonprofit, and the objective is geopolitical and environmental statements about oil, because oil is running the world. I mean, we're held hostage by the cartels, and so what I do is I give recycled 55-gallon oil drums to artists of all different disciplines, and they create unbelievable art. And Peter created one of the best pieces. It's won a number of awards, and his son Jesse did another one that is sensational. But I've had over 250 artists who have created drum artworks. We've had 24 exhibitions. The last one was in Hartford, from the end of April through May, in the Union Station. We had 65,000 square feet. We had 38 pieces of art, and we even had trash drums that were painted by students, Hartford students, with Hartford themes in the show. And so we had about 150 kids who participated in the painting of these trash drums. Anyway, it's a big success. We had over 500 people there.
That's great.
We had major speakers. Our keynote speaker was Commissioner Daniel Esty from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. And David Pandagore was our second speaker from the city, because the city was a big sponsor of the show. And it was just a sensational event.
David was on our show, as I said earlier. And what a great asset to Hartford David was. He's gone on to other things now. I'd like to get back in touch with him, but it must have been great for the kids to get involved.
We had a big program. We were in 18 high schools, and then we were in the Family and Youth Services program, and in the marketing events and cultural affairs program, where we had inner city kids at risk painting these drums. It was sensational.
It's unbelievable.
And those drums go into the parks whenever there's an event, because they're very beautiful. The parks director is afraid that the drums are going to be stolen or vandalized. But you know, we've done over 500 drums throughout the state of Connecticut, and I only know of one that was stolen, and none of them have ever been vandalized.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great chance for the kids to get involved.
And then what I did was I took this program, which brought together the schools, the Department of Public Works, and then all these social agencies, and I wrote up a proposal for the mayor's conference that takes place once a year, where they have this big meeting and all the mayors come, and they each have things that they've done in their city. And so I wrote up this proposal, and they became a finalist. So that made the mayor very happy, because I said, listen, I'm going to get you that prize. And then they got one of the awards.
That's fantastic.
And so they now can put it on their stationery and everything else, that they received the mayor's award for, I forgot what the full title is.
Oh yeah,
but
the big citations.
Right.
That's great though. Now, Peter, what are you up to these days?
Well, our design firm is still very active. We've done so many identities since the Whalers. Some of the ones that most people have seen, the University of Connecticut, which was an extraordinary project. We did the Wadsworth Athenaeum. We did the Mark Twain House.
Oh, nice.
We did Connecticut Forest and Park, Connecticut Landmarks. So a lot of identities.
Nice.
And but we're multidisciplined. We do posters. We do books. So we just finished this year a public art installation as part of the city canvases, which is run by Kip Bergstrom and the Department of Economic Development. It was an installation in London a large outside mural.
Oh, wow.
Which was about 9 by 40 feet.
Wow.
Using photography illustration and so forth. And it's just constantly changing projects, which we like.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Keep
yeah.
you fresh, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank both of you. We've had just an absolute wonderful time having you guys on, taking a trip down memory lane, and really our next segment as the Booster Club goes into a more urban approach with the city, supporting the city. It's going to be helping Hartford realize that the Hartford Whalers Booster Club, we do more than hockey. And hopefully we'll see you guys down in the city and,
Sure.
and be partners again.
Okay.
Maybe on a big, broader scale.
Yeah. Thank you very much for
no
having
problem.
us.
Anytime. And thank you, and hopefully we'll have you come back and visit.
Okay.
We'll check you next
Thank you.
time on Whaler Talk.